I'm recording this video on July 29th, 2023, and as we step into August, which is designated as the Hair Loss Awareness Month, it's an opportune time to delve into the world of alopecia, a condition that involves the loss of hair from areas where it normally grows. Now, this disorder is distressing and can affect anyone regardless of age or gender, and it really does diminish your quality of life. And yes, there are some people who are confident to say, well, it's just hair, which normally those are people who aren't dealing with any sort of alopecia condition. It does take a toll on some. And I'm going to be talking about the various types of alopecia and just some things that I recognized over the years. So, without further ado, let's get this video going. So I'm sure as many of you know, there are different types of alopecia, but alopecia can be categorized into two main types: non-scarring, which is the most common, and scarring alopecia. So the word alopecia itself is derived from the Greek word alopex, which translates to fox. Now, foxes do have hair, right? They have fur, they have a coat of fur, whatever. So why would alopecia translate to fox? Well, it more so is supposed to represent what some animals, including foxes, experience: a skin disease called mange, which is primarily caused by parasitic mites. The use of this term in human medicine also denotes hair loss, but encompasses a range of conditions and causes, not just parasitic infestations. Over the years, the term alopecia has become a generic medical term to describe hair loss, from the typical patterns of male and female pattern hair loss, androgenetic alopecia as it's called, to more sporadic, patchy hair loss seen in conditions like Alopecia Areata. It's interesting to note that the term alopecia, despite its origins relating to a disease in animals, does not always indicate disease in humans. For example, androgenetic alopecia, the most common form of hair loss, is largely a result of normal aging and genetic predisposition rather than any underlying disease process. So now that we know what alopecia is in terms of its etymology and its medical definition, what are the different types of alopecia? Again, alopecia can be broadly categorized into two categories: non-scarring and scarring alopecias, each encompassing various forms. In non-scarring alopecias, hair follicles are preserved, allowing for the potential for hair regrowth. They include Alopecia Areata, Telogen Effluvium, Trichotillomania, which is a condition where someone pulls out their hair, traction alopecia, and, believe it or not, androgenetic alopecia. Now, I want to talk a bit more about androgenetic alopecia. Androgenetic alopecia is the most common form, presenting as pattern hair loss in both men and women. In contrast, Alopecia Areata is a chronic immune-mediated disease that causes patchy hair loss, while Telogen Effluvium occurs due to disruptions in the hair cycle induced by stress, chronic illness, hormonal changes, or certain medications. Now, scarring alopecias involve the irreversible destruction of hair follicles, resulting in permanent hair loss. And to some extent, in androgenetic alopecia, as the hair follicle miniaturizes more and more, to the point where vellus hairs can't even grow out of that particular follicle, a scarring process ensues, where the area of the follicle produces something comparable to scarred skin tissue. And once that happens, the hair follicle is very, very much dormant, if not lost. But more obvious scarring alopecias include frontal fibrosing alopecia and lichen planopilaris, which are both characterized by extreme inflammation around the hair follicle, leading to scarring and the destruction of the follicle itself, which ultimately causes hair loss. Now, this channel of mine and much of what I talk about concerns androgenetic alopecia. Like I said before, this is the most common cause of hair loss in both men and even women. This condition is often progressive, resulting in alterations in the hair follicle cycle and miniaturization process. The process transforms the large pigmented terminal hair follicles into smaller, unpigmented vellus hairs, eventually causing thinner and shorter hairs with every hair cycle. The development and progression of androgenetic alopecia are strongly influenced by genetics and androgens. It's been found that genetic variants of the androgen receptors, particularly those associated with androgen receptor gene, AR, and the ectodisplacin A2 receptor gene, locus, plays crucial roles in the progression or even the prognosis of androgenetic alopecia. In men and women, dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, a testosterone metabolite produced by the action of 5-alpha reductase, plays a key role in hair loss in androgen-sensitive areas. Now, the sensitivity of hair follicles to DHT varies, with the hair follicles in the vertex, bitemporal, and mid-frontal scalp areas being particularly susceptible. Now, I did mention before that women also have to contend with this sort of reality when it comes to female pattern hair loss. It's still involving androgen. However, it is a bit less clear, but there seems to be an involvement of the same genes, particularly the AR gene and the ectodisplacin gene, locus, on the X chromosome may play a role in the early onset of female pattern hair loss. Moreover, increasing rates of female pattern hair loss in postmenopausal women suggests that there may be a protective role of estrogen, although the research findings are conflicting. So what can dudes do when it comes to this androgenetic alopecia reality? Finasteride, like I said in my other videos, pretty much minoxidil, using all these things in conjunction should be able to help you. Now I'm moving towards the direction of just telling people, hey, just look at using dutasteride because it's more efficacious than finasteride. But some people don't like the fact that dutasteride crushes about 90% of serum DHT, and depending on what milligram dose you take, between 0.5 milligrams to 2.5 milligrams, you may have a range of scalp DHT reduction from 50 to 80%, which is major and can actually help some people who have more severe forms of androgenetic alopecia. I'll say that looking back at my videos that I used to make, my photos, and how much I was obsessing about it when I was younger, because I'd always get comments like, oh, you have a huge forehead or something like that, which I've always had, by the way. The fact that I was a bit cognizant of what was going to come, I think was beneficial to me, because that allowed me to be more proactive when I became 20 to actually start taking finasteride. And honestly, although it sucked being, made fun of for that, and me being a bit self-conscious about it, it kind of did help me. Those comments kind of did help me get me on the path of taking precautionary measures to get finasteride started at a young age and hopefully, crossing my fingers, retain much of my hair. But I know for some people, they weren't that lucky. Like, androgenetic alopecia hit them all in like a year or two. I've seen some people like that, even some of my friends who, in about 2 years, they went from, I would say, a Norwood 2, which some people are fine with, to, I would say, a Norwood 4. I know one guy, he's like Norwood 5. He's dealing with it, but you can definitely see like it's a hit in terms of confidence. Now, why is it important, right, to at least make this sort of investment and take care of your hair follicles and shit like that? Because, I mean, it's confidence, right? And it really sucks to see that there's something beyond your control in some cases that is making a change to what you recognize yourself to be. And for many people, hair is how they personalize themselves. It's part of their personality. And to lose that aspect of your personality is kind of distressing. So the whole narrative of, oh, just shave it, bro, is kind of, it's, first off, I'll say that that comment is usually made by people who don't have androgenetic alopecia, or it might not be too much of a concern for them because maybe they have, godly facial features or whatever. So the concern of them losing their hair is just not there. But it's also made by people who are just straight up copers, people who've already given up and who don't want to see others do well for themselves, especially when it comes to saving their hair, right? They want more people to just jump on the bald bandwagon, which there's nothing wrong with that if you're personally looking in that direction of just shaving it. But to give the advice after somebody is expressing a concern to just shave it, or finasteride's fake, it causes, all these crazy diseases and just bullshit that they may spew. It's just nonsense. Don't shave it if you want to keep it. There are ways to keep it. There are ways to hang on to it. And like I said in my GT229 video, you can think of the treatments that we have now as a way of preserving your follicles until more effective treatments come along. And as long as we can keep those hair follicles in a prolonged and a bit more healthy state, then maybe something like pyrrolitamide or GT229 can completely stave off the process and reverse the miniaturization process. Like I mentioned before, androgenetic alopecia is a type of non-scarring alopecia, and there is a chance that it can get better if you take medication and precautions. If you don't, eventually it will become scarring alopecia. The area of the follicle will scar over, fibrosis will set in, and you'll just have scar tissue. And once that happens, there's really not much that can do for you. So if it is important to you, I'd urge you to find a way to help yourself. And again, just looking at these old videos and photos of myself, it's like, yeah, the quality and the density was better. Like, this video was recorded when I was about 16, 17, and I'm sitting here complaining about, essentially what is nothing. I just always had a big forehead, and that's not cope, that's just the truth. But man, if I could go back in time and just tell myself, listen, hey, calm down at 18, get on Finasteride, that's what I would have done. But there's no use in reminiscing, and there's only measures that we can take now in our present time to address whatever problems we may face. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Peace.